Welcome back. All right, so normally a news board has a lot more on it, but there's a lot to discuss here, isn't there? So the remainder of the 2022 World Junior Championships has been canceled. There were 3 teams that were dealing with positive cases, and now it's starting to emerge that, now first off, they're not in a bubble. Secondly, while they were trying to remain isolated in their hotels, there's a wedding party in Red Deer, which has had direct contact with, I believe, his players on the American team, and apparently the European teams were really alarmed at just how part of the rest of society they'd been, that they weren't being isolated, and there was no real safety protocols in place worth mentioning. So it's not necessarily a surprise it's gone this way. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, they're young and they're fine. A lot of the kids that are junior age are living with billet families. So some of them might be living at home, but if you're living with a billet family, we don't know what the status is with that billet family. They might have somebody who's immunocompromised in their home. And so, yeah, it's been shut down. I don't know what this is going to mean for tournaments going forward, but it's interesting because when they cancel all their January events, which included the World Juniors for the women next month, they cited safety concerns, and now what's being said is there weren't nearly enough safety protocols in place. Now, whether this is going to come back on the IIHF or if it's going to come back on those in Alberta that were planning this, we'll see. Next year's World Junior Championships is supposed to take place in Russia, so this is the last one that'll be in Alberta for a while. And it's too bad because last year's World Juniors, they were held in a bubble. They were very good, and there was no problem. And so when they were going back to Alberta, I thought, well, it should be all right, but it's not a bubble environment. So of course it's going to happen like this. And so, yeah, it gets shut down, and hopefully everybody's okay. At this stage, I hadn't heard anything about any Canadian positives, but there is the possibility that there were other positives they were finding, and they were saying, you know what, this isn't going to work. So that's it for the World Junior Championships. Because I remember people saying, when the NHL was looking like they were going to have shut down for a while, saying, well, just cover the World Juniors. And my response being, well, we'll see what happens with those, because again, it's not in a bubble. And one thing this does, and I want to point this out too, very often the World Junior Championships are seen as this huge stepping stone for players, right? Like last night, Connor Bedard, everybody made this, huge, and I understand it. I do. Connor Bedard had a fantastic game last night against Austria. So I feel like there's kind of a little bit of an asterisk there. I know he's 16. I know it's something that, Gretzky did it before with 4 goals at 16 years of age, and so does Bedard. But I looked at that and said, it's Austria. And a couple of those goals, I thought, if that's the American goaltender going to make the save on that, if that's Comesso, Ozeri probably saves it. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from here. But it does, to me, open up the 2022 draft because, again, that's where you see a lot of these European players. Scouts really rely on the World Juniors a lot, and so we might see a more unpredictable draft as a result of the fact that we only saw a couple of games for these teams. And maybe some players had a bad couple of games or had a great couple of games, and so it might affect their draft stock more than it should because they don't get to play the whole tournament. So I guess they'll all go home. They'll all return to their leagues, and the IIHF is left scratching their heads and saying, "How could we have done this better?" The answer is a bubble. And again, it's just to make sure that you get this done, you get it finished. I understand they don't have the kind of money, they don't have the kind of resources the National Hockey League does, so I don't expect them to be able to have a setup that the National Hockey League would. But again, with a tournament that's been put on and you're basically packing it up and saying, well, it's done, and only started 3 days ago, it's a situation that nobody's happy with. There's nobody right now that's saying, well, that's good, that's great. I can't think of anybody that would be happy with this situation. So there you go. The World Junior Championships, they're off. And so for the 2022 draft, we'll see how that affects things going forward, right? But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.